Hey, everybody, welcome back to Liberty Warrior Nation. It is Friday, January 30th, 2026. I am Tammy Nation, your host for this evening. I have Larry, Moe, and Curly. That's who it is backstage. The Three Stooges are back there waiting to come out tonight. We've got Jeff B., we've got the LW, and we've got John E. So we plan on having a jam-packed, great conversation show tonight. A little bit of interesting stuff going on. I'd say there was an arrest that was made. So are more arrests going to be made as well? Do we need a whole bunch of handcuffs on there? We talked about that last night, but there was an arrest made. It may not be the person that we thought, but is this the lead-in? Also, we've got a couple things to talk about Trump. He said some interesting things about the guy he named head of the Fed. Can't wait to talk about that. So we are all here geared up, ready to go. Also, late in breaking, Epstein files, a lot more released by the DOJ. They have 3 million pages released of documents. They've got 180,000 images. They've got 2,000 videos. Is there anything to learn from this? I know Bill Gates is in the trap this time around, so we'll talk about that as well. Can't wait to get this started, so we'll be right back after this little 30-second break. Get your fingers ready to type. Give us your opinions, comments, and everything else, and we'll see you right after this. Hello, everybody. It is a full panel tonight. I'm so excited about the show tonight. We got LW. Good to see you again tonight. We've got
Hello.
We've got Jeff B down there. Hey, Jeff B, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
And we've got the one and only Jeff is always so excited to be on. I tell him, you have to show the excitement there, buddy. When I text him and ask him if he can come on, he's like, sure. So you got to have some enthusiasm there. So try again. Go ahead.
Hey, what the hell is going on, guys?
There we go. We've got the Three Stooges, remember, Larry, Moe, and Curly. And then we've got the one, the only, always full of information, Johnny. Hey, Johnny, good to have you tonight as well. Are you there? Johnny. I hears Johnny in the background. He might have to come back and go back on.
Anyways, he might have to hop out.
Johnny,
come back in. Hey, I want to say hello real quick to Patricia. She says hello from upstate New York. I just drove through upstate New York a couple of days ago, and I'm gonna be driving through upstate New York tomorrow on my way back to Jersey. So, hello to Patricia, and thanks for watching from New York. Really appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. And I'm so excited about this because, Trump is really always having something interesting to say. And a couple of things he said today really threw me for a loop. So we'll get to that eventually. But I thought it would be fun to start out tonight, you guys, with the arrest that was made. I didn't see this one coming, really. But it was Don Lemon, former CNN anchor, and he was arrested by the federal authorities Thursday night in connection with that protest that he did in the Minnesota church service earlier this month. So there were 3 other journalists apparently that did get arrested with him in Minnesota, but his lawyer came out and he had something pretty nasty to say, but I'm not really surprised. He's basically saying that they should be investigating the federal agents who unalived 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters. We talked about that last night a little bit, how they keep saying they're all peaceful, right? And that this is a real indictment of wrongdoing, and that Don is going to fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. So once again, they're just saying that it shouldn't have been done. There's other things to worry about. So what do you guys think about that? We can just go ahead and go around and see. LW, what are you thoughts on that?
I'm going to go ahead and let all my guests go first, and then I'll go last. So go ahead.
Well, go ahead and do that then. So, Johnny, are you back here? There you are.
Yeah, I'm back.
Good.
The use of the FACE Act, they went in front of different judges, and I guess 2 different courts, and they couldn't get anything through that, so they took it to grand jury. So these arrests were made by a grand jury indictment. That's pretty powerful. So what is it that, the FACE Act is what I believe that they're all charged with. And, there's going to be a stretch because it is a journalist. He's proclaiming himself to be a journalist, but if they have any evidence or proof that he conspired with people. Now think about what he did. If you conspire with someone, someone is going to break the law. By entering the church, they violated the FACE Act. Everybody, not just Don Lemon, but all the people that went in, and there's been multiple charges, I guess 4 arrests so far. But in that, if I know that you're going to go somewhere and light a fire, and I call myself a journalist, and I watch you light the fire, then I become a participant in the crime, and that's where Don Lemon might have overstepped. He's got a great, Abby Lowe is a good attorney, but I don't think there's too much evidence on what took place outside the church, and Don Lemon's participation with the people that he knew were going to go in and violate the law. So he may
Okay,
be on the hook.
let me ask you this question, John Estabrooks, and then I'd like to go to Jeff next. So if they're going to hold him accountable for knowing that somebody was going to go light a fire, with everything that happened with J6 and how they tried to hold Trump accountable, inciting insurrection, with everything that's happened in 2020, the Summer of Love, with all those Maxine Ugly Face Waters, and all those people that were telling people to get out in the streets and get in people's faces and do this and do that. You even got the governor of Minnesota who's telling people to get out there and do things, with the shooting with that guy just this last week, and I don't even, Alex Patia or whatever the hell his name was, with all these celebrities, congressmen and women, governors putting things out there to incite people to be violent. Is this a lead in to maybe those people also being held accountable? That's my question.
I certainly believe, Mike, that there are several politicians from what they said, the words that they spoke in crowds, telling someone to go get in their face, scream at them, do all these things. And that's fine. I can go get in your face and I can holler at you as long as I don't carry out any act of violence. But it's now this crime of entering into a place of worship is totally different than confronting someone outside. And Trump, the one thing that the media and everybody, when they want to link Trump to the insurrection, you have to take him at his word. Let's peacefully go. And so anyone that didn't act peaceful wasn't operating on any instructions from Donald Trump. That's fact. So, but yeah, there are politicians. If their voice and their words compels a person to violence and a violent act takes place, yeah, they should be held accountable. And definitely, Tim Walz and that mayor have got some accountability to answer for, and don't be surprised if they don't.
Jeff B., what's your thoughts?
I wouldn't be shocked if none of them get found guilty of anything. And the reason I say that is they are soon going to have to prove that the judicial system is absolutely broke. And, you're getting all these crimes on video, but these judges keep letting them go. Uh, should they be charged? Absolutely, because if it was anybody else, and now comes into question. Uh, you're going to have to start charging all these other people. I know that they picked up 3 or 4 more, uh, but I guess we'll see once the hearing happens.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing. This was the first arrest on Lemon. I mean, an ex-reporter or whatever, but we still haven't seen any of the big ones arrested. And you're right, with the whole judicial system as corrupt with some of these judges the way they are, they have to be out because I don't see them prosecuting anybody either. And that's my big concern. All of us want justice served, and that's the big problem. Are we kind of in a clog here because we haven't cleaned up the judicial system, the judges and all that? And I don't know, is there anything that Trump can do and override some of these judges and the calls they make? Is there any kind of executive order or some kind of emergency thing that he can do to override some of these calls they've been making?
Well, I think that's where we possibly could see the military step in. And, if the judicial system is corrupt and broke and beyond a reasonable doubt that they did it, but they were set free, well, herein lies the issue.
let
So
me interject something, guys.
Go ahead.
And this is by pollsters, and pollsters you can either take it and they might be rigged, but when pollsters ask the question, what is it that you see that President Trump is not doing that you would want done? And the number one issue is no arrest. No arrest. So now here's the thing. That's a large base of people that voted for Donald Trump. And the Trump knows that his poll numbers that are declining are because of lack of arrest, lack of justice being handed out. We've already seen all the testimonies in the Senate and in the Congress, and we know all of the crimes of all of the people that perpetrated lies and in their crimes, their open crimes that they easily could seek indictment for. So is this a way of allowing the American people to verify the justice system is totally broken?
It's been broken for a long time.
Yes,
But here's my first question for the chat tonight. If you guys are watching live, drop us a comment there in chat. If you watch this later, drop us a comment. I try to read them all. And I know we got people from both sides in here watching tonight, and that's what we want. We want everybody to be able to come in here and give us your opinion on things. So do you guys think, first question is, do you guys think that Trump should be held accountable for J6? That's a question. See how many people answer that one. Do you think he did anything to incite an insurrection on January 6th? A lot of people don't believe that. I happen to be one that does not believe that. And here's the second question. Do you guys think that any of these celebrities, politicians, news anchors, governors who used language, even Joe Biden himself used language to incite things, do you think that they should be held accountable? And if so, do you think that will ever happen? That's my question, first question for tonight.
Well, I'm going to comment on to that, saying that, yeah, Maxine Waters and Chuck Schumer and the like of them have been inciting things for a very long time.
How about Nancy Pelosi, Tammy?
Yeah, Pelosi's another one. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous that none of these people have been held accountable for the things that they have said when they are the leaders. They say in things about Trump that he does things that he doesn't do, and they turn around and do things worse, and there's no accountability. But he's been pulled in for all these court cases, and he's pulled in for all these things. They just want him out. And you have to ask yourself, why is there no accountability? And why do they want him out? And I think it's because the corruption is so deep and so embedded. We talk about this for years, that there's more of the bad than the good. And I do believe that it's going to take the military to do it. When we cover all the stuff that we do on these shows, you see that every arm and branch of the government and the NGOs and what Doge discovered, it's all corruption. Jeff B?
Well, as per J6, and I know I talked about this before, but J6 was a complete and total military U.S. Secret Service and NSA operation. They knew it was going to happen. And, just by intercepts. And you can go look at the Gateway Pundit and do an article search on the FBI being at the forefront of intelligence gathering for J6, that they knew it was going to happen, and not that they knew it was going to happen, that they planned it, because who's now the big chair was actually involved in that operation, sitting in the ops center, watching the whole thing unfold. Because I kept telling him, I'm like, look, I know operators when I see them. There were operators on the stairwells of the Capitol building. So, and he kept saying, hey, are you crazy? Are you on your meds? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, look, dude, we were trained the exact same. So, and then once that article come out and I questioned him about it, he was like, look, I watched the whole thing unfold. Yes, they knew it was going to happen, but there was an operation that they needed to get something out of the Capitol building that was pertinent to national security. So, even when you go back and watch the J6 video, now that we know what we know now, it's very easily, you can spot this stuff now.
Yeah. John E?
I agree with Jeff. That whole J6 deal was a setup and by design. And I think the big fish that they had to fry was Miss Pelosi. I've always believed that. What took place in her office and what was seized from her office in the Capitol that they could have never gotten access to if they hadn't forced evacuation, for their protection. So, and then you got to go to Schumer, you got to go to Turtle Man, Mitch McConnell, and so all of those operators within and embedded in there. And I agree with Jeff. You can visually see people that hey man, this guy, look at this cat. He doesn't fit in with the rest of these red cap people, and look, anybody can sling on a red cap. Ray Epps and the entire thing was also, what was Mike Pence's role constitutionally? What could he have done? And he made a choice, because already prior to the entrance into the Capitol, congressmen and senators were already voting not to accept the electors. And then Ted Cruz hadn't even gotten to Cruz, or he would have offered that we wanted a 10-day hold to where they could verify and at least look at the evidence that Trump could present. But couldn't allow that to happen. Didn't want it to happen, because right now, what are we seeing? We're seeing when they go in the FBI, and that's a big deal when the FBI goes down to Georgia and you go into Fulton County, and we all know that one of the primary concentrations of 2,000 mules, and what 2,000 mules uncovered was the stuffing of mail-in ballots in Fulton County. So to go and seize all of that and then have everybody in Fulton, oh my God, this is the end of democracy. It's not the end of democracy. What's going to be verified and proven. A long time ago, there was intel and we had photographic proof that Mike Pompeo made a trip to Italy. And when we know about satellite links, and now with Maduro being a captured guy, and if he's rolled over and his one of his generals is already rolled over, and now they've given the solid evidence of satellite interference and being able to link from satellite to voting machines, Smartmatic machines in Fulton County. Well, so we're going to see. We'll get the proof.
Okay, well, my question to you guys is in chat as well. We've had, everything since Trump's been in office has been over a year. We still haven't seen arrests and stuff going on. We haven't seen anything like that happen. Why has it taken so long just to arrest like Nancy Pelosi when she's on video saying that she denied the extra help that Trump offered? Why haven't we seen an arrest of Maxine Waters inciting violence against people and politicians and even Donald Trump? If things are that messed up where we have the president and his administration willing to write up the wheel that's been tilted so bad and wrong against us, why hasn't anything come of that? Like, I can't imagine thousands upon thousands of arrests happening all at one time. Or are we not going to see any arrest, that it's just something else is going to happen, like the military takes over and it's going to just be over with? So who has any thoughts on that?
I think the military is already in control. I firmly believe that. And I just was having this conversation with my wife, and she goes, well, what leads you to that? And what leads me to that is the words of the president. And Donald Trump, if you were to lay this out and write in a script of how do I get from point A to point B, collecting the least number of casualties in the reveal of all of the criminal inside of our Congress, traitors inside of our Congress and Senate. When you watch people with intent, Nancy Pelosi took an official document when Trump went in and gave his State of the Union address, and she ripped that document. That was said, I don't care what the law says. I'm above the law. I can destroy documents. And the fact that we know that documents were destroyed by Hillary Clinton. Evidence that was, listen, it wasn't a question, do you want to, Hillary? She got a subpoena, and she just snubbed her nose at the subpoena, and we all know she did it. She hasn't run from the fact that she did it. So she destroyed evidence in a case where she was under subpoena. Can you do that? No, you can't. So we've seen Anthony Fauci go in and openly lie to Congress. Then we did our deep dive in that there's multiple crimes against humanity by 8 different individuals, 3 corporations, and they're all pharmaceutical corporations that committed crimes against humanity with COVID. And not just COVID, but then also the COVID vaccine. So we got all the goods, and we know all of this. Why hasn't it been done? Because if you look at who are the protesters right now against immigration, they're paid operatives. These people are being paid. You don't show up with a very nice printed sign from some printer somewhere. And I've been at a protest against the Affordable Care Act, where I confronted my U.S. Senator Mary Landrieu face to face, within nose to nose, and in that conversation with her, they locked me out of an open meeting, broke the Louisiana law to keep me on the outside, so I couldn't, in front of the television cameras, ask her the same questions I asked in a parking lot. How does that happen? How do the rights of the citizens? If you want to talk about free speech, I've been denied free speech for decades. Mike and I, you, Tammy, everybody that was on Liberty Warrior, our right to free speech to say the single word COVID, to say vaccine, was violated. So I feel sorry for old Don Lemon. Oh, he's a journalist. So what were we? We were reporting truth, and there's not a single thing that I ever dropped on Liberty Warrior that wasn't verifiable, documented proof that I and Stephen H. still have. We've got the evidence. We reported stuff that Fox was 2 years behind us.
Yep.
Fox is a year behind us. And listen, the other day I heard him finally say something about the price of silver. Well, wait a while, guys. You're so late to the fact that the central banks are being destroyed. But why? It is, if it is, and Mike made a comment about it last night. You know, how long do we have to wait for people to wake up? Well, here's the thing. There are more Democrats that are starting to question their own party by a higher number. You know, everybody wants to talk about MAGA's becoming disgruntled with Trump. Well, wait a while. You better go look at, if you're willing to talk to a Democrat, and I have Democrat friends that are in politics, and they are disgusted with their own party. They don't know what to do. They don't have a mechanism to get out, because that's what they say. They want out of the Democrat Party in the state of Louisiana, but there's no mechanism.
So, Jeff B., what do you think? If you think the military is going to take over, then all of a sudden we're just going to see a bunch of arrests, and it's just going to all be like a kind of a continuation once it starts happening? It's like you talk about the faucet that was drip, 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 and now it's going to be a constant flow. Is that what you think is going to happen as far as arrests?
No, what I think is going to happen is it's going to be the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Secret Service that do the arrests. Now, do I think most of them are going to happen at once? Yeah, because let's say that there isn't a plan in place, that none of this stuff is planned out, then you don't want somebody tipping somebody off. So in investigations, in the pre-work that I would have done, you hand all that stuff off to your divo, and then they would make the assignments on arrest teams and pickup teams. And if you have 8 people that are involved in a case, you hit them all at once, so they can't call and tip each other off. So if this isn't a captured operation, which I think it is, then you would have to have simultaneous arrest all at once. And why I think it's, a captured operation is all you have to do is go back and, watch when Nancy Pelosi was told by the U.S. Marshal to not say anything. And she said, okay, I won't. Now,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never seen a time that a Secret Service agent or a U.S. Marshal, Capitol Hill Police, that's doing protective detail ever tell a protectee that you can't talk. You're supposed to be in the background, not saying a damn thing, watching hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this comment, okay, so they have it all. That's nice. Prove it. So, of course, it is getting to the point that everybody is so frustrated and just kind of losing faith. And Trump, they say his numbers are tanking a bit, his support. We keep talking about midterms coming up. I just personally don't believe we're going to have them. My belief is something has to happen before that, because I don't believe that enough people are going to want out and go vote, because what are they actually voting for? If this administration in the first year or so hasn't done some things that make us feel like more is going to be done and give us some more transparency, I just feel like it's going to be a lost cause. So do you guys have any thoughts on that?
But, on the concept of proving it, yeah, I agree. But guess what? They've already proved this, the election in Fulton County. They've already proved it to a judge, because the judge had to, a U.S. magistrate or a federal judge had to sign off on these search warrants. So the prosecutor for Department of Justice had to go prove this in a sealed court to say, hey, here's the evidence that we got. We need to be able to get in there and get the hard copies or to get X, Y, and Z. So they proved it to a judge. Now, the only problem is when they take this to court, is the judge or whoever hears the case, are they going to go by the rule of law or are they going to go by the rule of the pocketbook?
One of the
If
great
they,
things, Jeff, hold on a minute. One of the great things, and listeners need to understand this, that warrant was not a civil warrant because they had attempted civil warrants on 4 different times, and they never could get it done. This was a criminal warrant by a magistrate. So trust me, they had to give them. So here's the thing: multiple people, if the crime is verified, they must have had a lot of evidence to persuade a magistrate. Yeah, okay, go get it off. Because that's a criminal is way different than civil. So now anything that happens after this will be criminal prosecution, criminal indictments, and not some civil case.
I wanna ask the chat a question tonight because I'm trying to keep up with all the comments, and we appreciate both sides of the story here, both sides of the aisle, people who support Trump and people who do not support Trump. So that's my question: how many of you in here do support Trump, and how many of you in here do not support Trump? That's my question.
Awesome. Well, to tag on to the Fulton stuff that's going on here in 2020 in general, Tulsi Gabbard did attend the Secretaries of State conference today, and she was going to speak along with Kristi Noem and Pan Bondi. And isn't that where all the states' election people go? So I am curious to know what she would say, and I can't wait for information to come out on that, because in lieu of what just happened here in Fulton County, and you're right, a lot of serious stuff did happen with the judge and all that, and I think Georgia's going to be the poster child of the takedown of all this, which last night I said I thought it was going to be Arizona. But do you think her speaking at the Secretary of State conference is going to be anything big?
well, here's people need to, when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, they have to think outside of the box on this. Why is Tulsi Gabbard even involved with the election?
That's what I'm
She,
saying.
she is director of national intelligence. That is an outside foreign data collection agency. So you know what that means? If DNI is involved, and the reason why there was outside interference, because no one from either side of the aisle has said on the House floor, wait. That would be like the CIA investigating something inside the United States. Why is DNI involved in the elections unless there was foreign interference?
Amen. You nailed it. And that's exactly what I believe they've got. I think they have had the entire time, Jeff, the satellite links and what China provided for satellites, what the Vatican's, I'm trying to think of the name of their satellite that was used, but at any rate.
Leonardo.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So at any rate, I think that you're spot on. And the minute they were all whining about Tulsi, what's she doing there? I said, well, by God, foreign interference is foreign interference, and she has to be there.
Well, she also was here in Georgia, and I will tell you, Garland Favorito, I've talked about him a few times. He runs Voter Georgia, and he's for voter security and all that stuff. Well, I went and seen him speak a few times, and he was talking about all of this, about the interference, how easy it is, all that. And now he's on the forefront, and they're actually giving him credit because he pursued this and kept pushing this, him and his group, Voter Georgia. And it's amazing because what I heard about a couple years ago when he was talking about it, and here it is, he's on the forefront. Now he's doing interviews, and it's just incredible because I'm like, if you have all this information, why isn't it coming out? Why isn't anybody doing anything? And here it is 2 years later from me hearing that, and it's all being validated, and it's all coming true. So it's pretty crazy to me. I don't know. It's just, in Tulsi being around here, that was a big deal. And like what Jeff says, there has to be some serious stuff going on for her to be around, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot happening with Tulsi Gabbard, and Christy Nome is another one that's been out there working hard, in my opinion. So part of the title was "When Your World is on Fire, Who Do You Trust?" And so that's going to be my next question for everybody listening tonight, because I've seen a lot of the comments. Some people will support Trump no matter what. There's people in here that are not Trump supporters, and we welcome you here tonight. Appreciate you being here. So if your world is on fire, who do you trust? And I can tell you that 4 years prior, I didn't vote for him, nor did I trust him, and he did a horrible job of this country. I actually saw a meme on Facebook today that said Biden 2028. Are you shitting me, pile? Like, holy shit. So that's my question to chat tonight. When your world's on fire, I saw somebody said that they can't buy steak, and yeah, there's a lot of complaints right now that prices are still extremely high and people can't afford things. So things are still not great, and they were not good the 4 years under Biden. So when it's really horrible, besides your Lord and Savior, putting your trust in Him, who do you trust to run this country? Is it Donald Trump? Is it somebody else? Because me personally, and I'm not a cultist like people like to call us, but I feel like Donald Trump is the man for the job for our time right now. And I don't trust everything that he does. I will hold him accountable. I will call him out when he does wrong. But I'm telling you, I believe, me personally, my perspective, Donald Trump is still the right man for the job at this time. And that's just that's my perspective. I'll go around the table. Who do you guys trust?
Well, I'll say Donald Trump. Yes. Do I feel like I nitpick on some of the things sometimes? Yes, because the more that we find out, the worse that it seems, more than we could ever imagine. And I feel like he is doing the best he can do. It's the support team around him and being transparent. They aren't being as transparent as I wish they could be. But I just feel like we're just kind of waiting and waiting and waiting and not seeing a lot. And I don't understand that. But I do trust him. I wouldn't trust anybody else in the seat at all at this point in time.
What about you, Jeff? Who do you trust? Who would you
Uh,
trust? Would you trust
yeah,
anybody different? Would you trust Sleepy Joe at the wheel right now?
no, I would. You know, and this may shock some people, but even though I didn't care for the guy, I supported the office of the presidency, even though I knew there was something definitely wrong. But who I trust is the military. Um,
Amen.
you
There you
know
go.
they're a different. Once you become an NCO, and once you become a chief, senior enlisted, or you become an officer, it's a different breed. Um, it's a different attitude. It's a different view on things. Um, you know, and I don't honestly, I don't think we're going to see any big, big arrest until Trump issues this national emergency. Once Trump issues the national emergency, I don't think there's anything Congress can do once he issues it. And I think you'll see, because you have to remember, Trump set up these rapid response forces for the military to work inside the United States. And what I think these national, the rapid reaction forces are going to be is to support federal law enforcement once they go in, they start kicking in doors and executing warrants. And, for the big players, both sides of the aisle, every T's going to have to be crossed. Every, line item's going to have to be checked off for a judge. And if it gets to the point in the judicial system where the judges aren't going to sign off on it because they're going to be worried about having their job or their pocketbook getting hit, then I think that's when the Judge Advocate General Corps steps in and prosecutes it under national security guidelines.
Wow. Wow. John?
Well, I agree with Brother Jeff. I do trust the military, and I want to go a little step further because clearly we have people that don't support President Trump in chat, and we've got folks that do, and that's fine. But here's who I trust, and this is at my very core. I could care less about your party. I don't care about. I despise politicians. I've been offered political jobs. I don't want that. But what I do trust is the American people, Americans, regardless, because I have seen and we have all witnessed in our lifetime when 9/11 took place, that was an attack on America, and Americans stood up. They volunteered for service. And that's why I trust the military. These are American men and women that are truly servants. They're in service to their nation and to our Constitution. They take that oath and swear that oath on a daily basis. They live it. And I trust that with all my heart. And so whatever's going to happen, Trump is the political guy that's in power right now. And if he's there and was hand selected to be there for this time, that'll all be revealed to us. But when it will be the U.S. military and the American people right now, all of us, regardless of party, are seeing things that are abhorrent to us. We don't want congressmen, in there just for the money and trading stocks, insider trading and everything, lying. What's that sleazebag Adam Schiff? Go up there and lie. All the J6 stuff is all a scam, huh? When you have a select committee, but there's not a single Republican on it. And in that select committee, all the so-called evidence that they have is all destroyed and no one has any record of it. Are you shitting me? We're the people. We pay for every single action they take. And when they're not taking action for us, who are they working for? And we're going to find all the big pharmaceutical ties, all the corporate ties, the military complex. And listen, those guys have already been weeded out. Trust me, all those firings that took place at the Pentagon and the early resignations, that was by design. When they carried them all into that room and dressed them up and closed them down, they said, if you're not with this, hit the door. So the people, it'll be us, the people.
I want to also respond to some of the comments in chat too about a fascist dictator. I find that interesting. I'll be kind, interesting, because when the numbers and the facts come out that more people were shot during the Obama administration, when ICE went and deported more than what Trump is deporting right now, are you guys calling him a fascist and a dictator? Same with Joe Biden. There's so much evidence out there. We've been talking about it for years that these guys tried to take our guns from us, did all kinds of things that were dictatorish and fascist. And I don't see anybody out there on the left calling any of those guys fascist or dictators or Nazis. You guys just have Trump deranged syndrome, and I feel sorry for you because it's a horrible thing to have, because all you can do is hate, hate, hate. So I appreciate the comments, and you're welcome here, and you're welcome to make reasonable comments as long as they're not being asshole comments. Then you're allowed to stay here. We won't block your comments. We won't block you. If you get out of hand, I just ask my mods and my host Tammy, just send them to the curb. Put the trash out where it belongs. Just have reasonable conversation in here. That's all we're asking for. So your opinion.
Mike, let me offer this. Let's open up a conversation with whoever that is that describes Trump as a fascist. Give me your definition of fascist.
Yeah,
what is
I'd
fascism?
like to hear that too.
Explain that, because if you're truly knowledgeable and you're making a case that Trump's a fascist, well, give us your definition of what fascism is. Because if you don't know the definition, then you're just spewing a talking point, and there's no value in that.
Well, they
Yeah.
just they regurgitate what they hear on CNN, and
Yeah, exactly.
that's really all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have this comment up here, and I want to tie it to another comment, if you guys don't mind, to Jeff, because somebody said, one of the ladies in here said, what is a national emergency? And then this person says, Jeff, if T calls a national emergency, how long will it last? So because not everybody knows what a national emergency is, maybe you could start with that, Jeff, and then say how long you think it would last, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, like Trump just issued a national emergency for the East Coast because of this weather situation. So, what that does in that particular instance is it frees up a lot of funding, less paperwork, like for FEMA. So, let's say that you're in 8 feet of snow and your roof caves in, but you don't have nothing for credit, you don't have no money. Then what it does, it'll streamline to where FEMA, Red Cross, all that, it's basically under the president's control, get it done. Now, with what I believe is coming down the pike with national emergency on voting, is I believe it's going to be just like the Insurrection Act, to where the president issues the national emergency under national security guidelines, because voting is our biggest national security
Mm-hmm.
issue. So he can put anything in there he wants. Once he signs it, it's a done deal. And somebody can contest it, take it to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court numerous times has said that it is within presidential powers, because he's the chief executive. So he can make that national emergency as long as he wants, or he can put the stipulation in there based on who he's allowing to enforce the national emergency, whether it's the military, whether it's, the FBI, whether it's Secret Service, U.S. Marshal, however they encompass it, until they report back to him that the national emergency requirements have been fulfilled. That'll go on for basically as long as they need it to go on. So I think that's the only way he's going to be able to do it, because Congress isn't going. I mean, we already see the dividing Congress over ICE. These guys are out there doing what Congress has already stated numerous number of times is within the authority of ICE. And people just don't like it, because, you're getting rid of people who shouldn't have been here in the first place. But on their side of the aisle, I get, because guess what? Our government flew them in here.
Right.
But
Right.
here will be the key takeaway with this. If you go out on the street and you ask these people who are protesting, hey, if you're getting federal assistance, if you're getting state assistance, you got to give that up now in order to support all these immigrants that came in. Watch their tone change.
Well, it was the same when it came to sanctuary cities and running out of space and all that. And no, they were started busing all these
Yep.
illegals to these, leaders' houses and in front of, and nobody took them in. Nobody took them in.
Imagine
It was,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there's a lot of talk, but nobody wants to actually put in the effort to help, because they really just want to bitch about something. It seems like, or I don't know. Go
well,
ahead.
when I was watching these protests last night, Democrats are, and some Republicans. It's not just the Democratic side.
Right.
When Trump was wanting to build this wall, right? People were saying, "Oh no, the walls are racist," yada yada. Well, why was it last night all these protesters were building walls with tables and dumpsters?
Yeah.
I thought that was racist, but they were out there building them.
Right. And this is a good point too. Veterans being evicted from nursing care centers to
Yep.
house illegals. Remember also the elderly and some of these people that lived in apartments for a long time. They evict them to let illegals move in.
Correct.
So that's the thing that bothers, I think, me about these people who so-called protest. They're not realizing they're protesting against their own country and their own people, their own family and friends. Even today, there was the walkout, remember, to protest ICE.
Yeah.
And it's cockeyed. And I was really ticked because I found out in my community, like 50 of the high schoolers went out and did stand there and hold signs outside the school. But what got me most is the parents' comments saying, good for you. This is great. This is what we need. And it's half-eyed, cockeyed. You have a right to protest and have a voice, but you have to have all the right information, because if they saw the videos that we saw of what happened to some of these people, they would realize that accidents happen, but these people incited some of the stuff that happened to them by entering and breaking through what ICE was trying to do. They were spitting on them. They were kicking on them. They were driving away.
They were assaulting. They were
There you
assaulting officers.
There you
So
go.
here's a comment from Cody. Cody says, just put yourself in their shoes. There is a better way to go about it. So Cody, if you're referring to removing illegals from this country, this is my question. What is the better way? If you were in charge, if you were president, or any of you can answer this question. How would you go about removing people that came to this country illegally? How would you go about it? And my second part to that question is, do you believe that illegals that come here illegally have the same rights as United States citizens? Because I will disagree with that. If you have come here illegally, you've crossed our border illegally, you have no fucking rights. That's my opinion.
Right.
Well,
And we're go ahead, Jeff.
look at Canada. If an American tries to go to Canada and they got a DUI, Canada's not letting you in.
Okay, respect due process. Hold on a second. Respect due process. If you're an illegal alien, you have no right to due process. You are here illegally. So I have to disagree with that comment. Now, if they were here legally, they came through our border crossing and they were here legally and then they were to be removed, then maybe there is some due process to that. But if you're jumping our fence or crawling under our fence or going through a tunnel or swimming across the river and you come here illegally, you have no rights. Period.
Well,
You're a criminal. You're a criminal.
Yep. And I use the instance of one of my neighbors. They are here legally from Honduras.
But hold on. I got to answer this one too. So Pete Smith says it's in the Constitution, and gentlemen, John Estabrooks, you know the Constitution pretty well. He is not incorrect on that. It does state in the Constitution, and I think it's Article 5 or something, if I remember correctly. There is a very gray area in the Constitution, and so I do recognize that, and thank you for the comment.
Let me tell you all something. When you Mr. Holman, so Mr. Trump, President Trump sends Holman up to Minnesota. He goes and sits down with Jacob Fry and he sits down with Tim Walz. And here's the thing. You got to recognize both these guys are probably going to go to prison for the fraud that was committed in Minnesota. But outside of that, he goes and he sits down with them. And the primary agreement and all that we ask for, ICE asked for, is okay, you have a criminal alien in your jail. We want to come and pick them up when they're processed out and they've done their time in your jail. Before you let them out on the street, we want to pick them up in the safety and security of your jail, where we can send one or two ICE officers to pick it up, facilitate their removal from the country. Sounds safe to me. Doesn't sound like you're having to go and bust down doors. But then here's the thing. Not all of these criminals have already, been charged in their location. They're operating with whatever drugs or whatever they're doing, and they're not in the system. So if they're outside the system, but yet ICE knows where they are living. And if the sanctuary city says, okay, we will assist and we'll send 2 of our local police officers and 1 unit with 1 of your ICE units to facilitate the removal from that property of one of these criminal aliens. Bob's your uncle. Everything's safe. It's nice. And there's no protest because you would have local police assisting ICE in the removal of criminals because ICE is a law enforcement. They're all law enforcement officers, just a different branch. Now, last night, and they had a big Mardi Gras celebration in D.C., and all of these Louisiana politicians were all up there with Mr. Trump, and then there was a great D.C. event and entertainment. And one of the only sanctuary city we have in Louisiana with the highest violent crime rate is New Orleans. Our governor, Jeff Landry, signed a document and requested Trump to send ICE into New Orleans. And they got a name for it, coon-ass name for it, Operator Gator Hunt. I don't know what it is. But anyhow, Mayor LaToya Cantrell, and if you don't know who LaToya Cantrell is, look her up. She's one of the biggest liberals, crazy dummy in the world, but she's the mayor of New Orleans. And her city council, when all that first took place, oh my God, we're sanctuary. We want to give sanctuary to 2 of these poor refugees. No, they're not refugees. But now here's what she went up to and caught on mic, little hot mic situation. She goes up and she thanks President Trump personally for the 60% reduction in violent crime with the removal of criminal aliens from New Orleans. So they can all shut up. If you want to participate, these sanctuary cities, number one, ought to cut off every dollar of federal funding. He can do that. He didn't do that because that also hurts Americans. But if your city is a loony bin that wants to accept criminal aliens, they're all criminal in my book, but anyhow, the violent criminals, and you don't want to assist and facilitate with your local police department and your sheriff department. That's the difference in a sanctuary city. No, you can't use any of our outlets. You can't. If you dial 911, we're not answering your call. You operating outside against our wishes. Well, wait a while. Your wishes don't supersede the federal government, my friend. And that's what's happening in Minnesota and all these sanctuary cities. But if you want to let the man have access, come in and do it right. Before you release them out on the street on your no bail policy in New York, you call ICE and say, hey, we've got a criminal detainee. He's fixing to be released. You can come and exercise your warrant of removal and take him out. That's due process. They get the due process. Because once they're handed over to ICE, ICE has got to verify exactly the crimes they committed and who they are. They have to identify them. So there's due process taking place. So all that right there is a smoke and mirror due process. That's smoke and mirror by the leftists who wish to see our large city centers destroyed, using them as sanctuary cities for violent criminals. How about my due process to be safe when I walk in New Orleans?
Exactly. And don't forget, they had the opportunity given to them to leave here on their own accord, given money and comforts of a nice flight.
And a free ride home.
Ride home.
Fair airfare in what, $1,000, $3,000?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
So,
Johnny will sign up.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're legit and you don't want to take advantage of a loophole or come in here illegally or whatever it may be, you want to do the right thing. A good person with morals and values would do the right thing. These are a lot of them are criminals and stuff. So like you had just said, but it's not fair to anybody that they jump ahead that came here legally. And that's the thing. It's the very point of when they cross and it's illegal. Right then and there, it's a problem. They should be just sent right back. And Trump isn't the only one that deported illegals. I think it was Obama that deported the most illegals.
Obama, they're not even talking about Obama. They have the orange man syndrome, so they did not respond to my comment on Obama. They didn't respond to my comment that over 50 people got shot by ICE during the Obama administration. This is the Trump deranged syndrome, TDS, and they're in here, and that's fine. I love reading the comments. They're very comical. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Jeff?
I want to add. Put yourself in this situation for the viewer who had said that. So I'll give you the circumstance of
they
one.
wouldn't be saying it, Jeff, if their mom got shot or worse from an illegal. They'd be singing a whole different tune about that.
Correct. Well, and I'm going to put this scenario out there. Put yourself in this scenario, and then at the end, ask the question: would you be pissed? So one of my neighbors, they're from Honduras. They came here legally. They paid all the fees, everything, did all the tests, took all the classes to become U.S. citizens, dual citizens. So for his family, it was upwards of $100,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so put yourself in that situation that you just wrote a big fat check for $100,000 so you can have all the rights and amenities of every American citizen that was born here. Now, you just found out that your neighbor came here illegally. He gets all the same damn benefits as every other U.S. citizen. Now, are you going to be asking for a refund from the federal government? I
Yeah,
bet you
because
your
that's
attitude changes then.
yeah. That listen, when we're in economic distress, and trust me, we are. So when you got $38 trillion of debt, and then you have these sanctuary cities, and 20 million people come in, and then we give them asylum for the ones that are seeking asylum, or we just let them in. We fly them in, and we drop them off in America. And the very first thing that every NGO did down there on the border and in New York City, in New Orleans, they set up places to service them, and they get paid by the month, $9,000 a month per little illegal immigrant to care for them and feed them while they get them on government assistance. So when they walk out the door after their little 90 days of the NGO robbing us, and that's our tax dollars we're paying them, so the NGOs turn them loose on the street once they get their first check delivered to them. And what is that check? It's a welfare check. Now, who's welfare meant for? When they wrote the legislation, it certainly wasn't for illegal immigrants. When they show up to a hospital and we take care of all their health needs. And listen, some of these people come here with serious health issues. They come and they enter our hospitals and our health system, and there's overcrowding in the hospitals, and all on the back of the U.S. taxpayer because they're getting Medicaid meant for Americans.
Yeah, I
So
know,
it's all
John, but
bullshit.
these people don't understand economics. They've
Well,
been
they
taught
better.
they've been taught that America just has all this money and we can just keep printing money and the national debt means nothing. They're ill-informed. They don't understand. And to one of the comments where it says, when balance is restored, we're going to go run and hide in the dark. You bet your ass I'm not going to hide in the dark. And you bet your ass if people want a civil war, the left, which I happened to be in Jersey the other day, where it's illegal to defend yourself. You're not allowed to have any kind of self-protection.
Wow.
If they want a civil war, they're definitely fucking with the wrong people, because the conservative movement, the red states, all the rednecks and the all of us country folk believe in the First Amendment. We believe in the Second Amendment, and we carry the Second Amendment. And I'm telling you right now, man, that's a war that these people can't even fight, even if they wanted to, because they have nothing to fight with. So
And
I say bring it.
they're going to be surprised just because let me tell you something. Down here, I mean, I have friends. Louisiana was a solid Democrat state, you know, for a long, long time, you know, because
See you, Pete.
they
See you,
respected
Peter, whatever the hell your name is. See you later.
But I mean, look, it's not. There are a lot of good people down here that are Democrats, and they still vote Democrat, and I know who they are, and they know me, and we have our discussions and our disagreements. But the one thing I can tell you, they're well heeled, because if it goes sideways, guess what? They're going to be right laying alongside me and Mikey, defending our rights and our freedoms, because we're not going to accept a civil war just because some propaganda media, you know, incites division. We're not trying to divide. I want to unite people. That's one of the things. We have to unite. And I don't, if you guys want to shift gears, we better do a little conversation about economics.
Well, you know, shift gears, but if you want to do economics first, that's fine, because I definitely want to get to the new guy that Trump picked for the Federal Reserve.
There you go.
I want to talk about that too. So, do you want to do your economic thing first, or were you just joking?
No, go ahead. That's a good lead in.
Okay, so
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, good. Well, and Jeff too. This cracked me up today. So, you know, there was a lot of who are we going to pick, or who is he going to pick, or whatever. Well, he picked and nominated Kevin Warsh to lead the Federal Reserve, right? He's going to replace Jerome Powell when his term expires in May. So Trump posted on Truth Social, like, all the kudos, what this guy, what he's got the graduate school of business that he attended in Stanford for economics at the Hoover Institution. He's got this whole list of accolades for this guy. But it got interesting at the bottom of this nice little thing that Trump put on Truth Social. He says, I have known Kevin for a long time, and have no doubt that he will go down as one of the great Fed chairmen, maybe even the best. On top of everything else, he is central casting, and he will never let you down. Congratulations, Kevin. President Donald J. Trump. Now, what the heck is that all about? You know, he has said central casting on and off many times. But when you're talking about the Federal Reserve and the new chair, and he says he's central casting, even I was like, are you kidding me? So I would love to hear, Jeff B., what you have to say about it. And then, John, you can go into economics. And then when LW comes back, he can give his 2 cents.
Well, you know, why does Trump keep saying this central casting BS? Right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is like the 8th or 9th time in this presidency he's talked about central casting. And, you know, that comes right from the keyboard. So either Trump is doing a major pump fake and keeping everybody who believes that there's some type of operation going on faked out, or there's something really to it.
Well, do you think at a time like this, when everything's so unsettled with the wars possibly coming and no disclosure of anything to the people's liking and on, I don't know that it would be a good time for the president to make a joke about the Fed and what he's doing like that. So
Yeah.
That's just, it's to me. So that's what gave me pause. It's like, is he really trying to say, hey, I don't think he's messing with us by that. I don't think he would do it. It wouldn't be funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
John?
Well, and I'll tell you what, and that's all anybody's got to do. Just Google and type in central casting, so you got a firm understanding that's involved in movie production. And then you got to go all the way back to the first term and Mr. Mnuchin. And what was Mr. Mnuchin? Not only was he a banker, but he was a movie producer. Direct from central casting.
Yep.
You know, and I'm signed up for central casting too, just so you know. So I really am. I'm
well,
on
good.
there.
Good. And as we probably ought to all be pros at it. But one of the things that this man and the task that he's given, when you got to look at what was Jerome Powell, who is Jerome Powell? Well, he was deeply ensconced in the deep state central bank of Europe, and he ran, and he, the increase in interest payments and everything that was antithetical to what, when you start paying more service on the debt than your defense budget, you got serious problems. So this 38 trillion is not sustainable. In fact, we're broke, folks. I hate to say it, but we're broke. So this young man will come in, and if Trump has his way, the debasement of our currency is taking place. You're living in it. You're facing it every day when you go to the grocery store. I don't care what you're purchasing. Your dollar devaluation, that's dollar debasement. They're debasing our currency. Why? What's the reason? Well, if you look at the rate, at a 4% interest rate, and the fact that, okay, we're paying more to service the debt in interest payment than we are into our military for defense, that becomes a national security deal. So when you drop it and you devalue the dollar and you debase it in all the foreign countries, long-term bondholders are not showing up. There's nobody, no foreign nation is buying 10, 20, and 30-year bonds. They're not buying U.S. debt. They're converting, they're dumping it, getting out of it, recouping their money, and then turning it into metal, buying silver, buying gold, buying platinum, buying assets. Every nation. So why isn't the United States? And Mr. Trump is seizing all our assets, and he's got a ledger with all our assets. When you look at the people from central casting that are serving in his cabinet and their positions in the cabinet, you understand this currency debasement then will allow him to take the devalued dollars that are all rushing back into the United States. And right now we're all it's a hidden taxation. When you devalue the currency, what a dollar will buy this month, it'll take $2 to buy next month. Okay. And your salary and your wages are not going to keep up with that. So Americans are suffering. And we're just not suffering from inflation, which is laughable. But the devaluation then, as all this currency from around the world that was in petrodollars floods back into the U.S. Treasury, Mr. Trump, if he had a Fed chair that would drop that interest rate down to zero, would cut the value in devalued currency by 50%. So he could pay them back with the worthless paper. The central bank say, here's your 38 trillion, clear our freaking state, and we're going to go to an asset-backed currency, and here are the assets listed, and we'll go back to a sound money principle. Only way out of this, folks. When you look at what's taking place with silver today, man, big move. I traded options and still could if I wanted to, but in the options market, one of the things that just took place on Monday, it verifies that the bankers are controlling the COMEX, which is all paper silver, paper gold.
Yeah,
Right, so,
that's not any good. I just want to pause you for just a second, Brother
ahead.
John. I just want to say thank you to Cody for being here tonight and for the respectful comments that you're making in chat. You're welcome here anytime, even if you have a different point of view. So he put a very nice comment there in chat. And I just wanted to acknowledge that because that's what this is all about. You can come here with different ideas, different perspectives, different beliefs, and we welcome that. And I know I could get harsh on some people that are just total douches. You know, when they start calling us names and doing stupid things, then yeah, I boot them out. But as long as you can bring your ideas and your evidence and all your stuff respectfully here, you are welcome here anytime. Sorry about that, John. I just wanted to say thank you.
No, that's fine, and God bless him, and because we're all Americans. Listen, you know
Yeah,
that's the
we
one
are.
thing.
Listen, I don't want to be labeled. I have conservative values, but I don't want to be labeled a Republican or a Democrat or anything. I'm an American, and I think that a lot of this stuff is done on purpose to keep us fighting amongst each other. Because if we all would unite, we could deal with this corruption, I believe, a lot quicker than people think, and get this country back to what it was founded on and being great again. And I just I have conservative values, but
Yeah.
I only vote Republican because a lot of those people, when they say that they're conservative, have the same values I do, but they're just as corrupt and dirty as the other side, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Mhm.
535. That's the number of those foul son of a gun. But anyhow,
Okay.
to
Well-
get back to understanding, because today, and I don't know people, I know folks inside of our chat, and we hold silver. And but on Monday, what the banks convinced COMEX to do, if I bought an option to control 5,000 ounces of silver, my premium cost 30 days ago was $15,000. Now that's an option, and if you have a call option and your position is saying, I'm betting that the price of silver is going to continue to climb and go up. So for every dollar move silver makes, that's $5,000 of money in your pocket when you put up to 15,000 to control. I mean, that was the price. But on Monday, COMEX come in and says, Johnny, if you want to maintain your position, your 5,000 ounce position in silver, you've got to come up with an additional $35,000. And they jacked it up to 55 grand to control one position. And there's three different levels, but it doesn't matter. So what did they do? They're freezing out the small investor who could profit from controlling it and working the market and playing inside the paper game, but it's just paper. Because anytime I've exercised an option, I never took delivery of 20 tons of rice. I never took delivery of 5,000 ounces of silver, because when a contract comes due, that's a whole different, you got to put up the price of it at that day to get delivery. But for the option, you don't have to. You can just ride the premium and pay the premium and pay the premium. And if it goes against you, you can sell your position and only suffer a $15,000 loss. But when they come in and they reset the game for that same option 7 days later, costs 55 grand, what you saw today in the plummeting of the price of silver and gold were all of the people that got priced out of the market had to liquidate their paper positions. The banks forced the move. Okay, so that's what it is. Just relax. Everything, there's far more demand for silver and gold than what anybody where it's going to go. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't sell an ounce of silver to nobody right now. And if I could, and if it dips any further, all I can tell you is Johnny's buying it. But I want the physical metal. And now here's the thing.
Yep. Buy physical, not paper.
Right now, today, if you go to the U.S. Mint to buy Silver Eagles, they're out. They're none available. They took down there. You can't buy none. You can't buy none if you wanted an Australian coin. The Australian Mint they're not selling any silver at all. And this took place in 6 different nations, in Bank of London and their COMEX in London, same thing. Can't get silver. They're not selling it because they know that this paper move. If I walked into my local coin dealer last week and I sold him an ounce of gold or silver, I sell him an ounce of silver and he gives me $100 bill. And now that same ounce of silver with this move by the COMEX and this pushing people out of the market, out of the paper market, right now he's taking a $15 hit, and he's not going to continue to do that. What's he going to do? He goes, I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to buy. He's going to close his doors because he'd be a fool to gamble when it's being played by the banks who are upside down their position. The Federal Reserve is being destroyed. It is being annihilated. That's all you got to understand about this.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, and you have a lot of great information with that because it can be very confusing. I just got a couple quick things I wanted to cover real quick before the end of the night because we know that we've been in here for quite a while, and I don't want to take up too much more of your guys' time. It's been a great show, but there's something that just happened today that we should talk about, I think, and it's the Epstein files, which we thought that was a done deal. Okay, so with the Epstein files, the Justice Department released 3 million pages of documents. They released 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. So my question is, I haven't had time to look it over or do any of that yet. Do we think we are going to get anything out of this full disclosure? Because they had a presser today that I watched, but this is the only thing that I've seen come out of this so far. So the documents do reveal that Bill Gates, he's in there a lot, but he begged Epstein for antibiotics to secretly spike his ex-wife Melinda's food after catching an STD from romps with Russian girls. And emails also reveal Gates sent Epstein wild description of his manhood. That's what I'm going to call it. Maybe it's boyhood. I don't know. But the total moment about that is Gates is now denying all of that. Obviously, any ties and all that stuff, but he's got pictures and he's in the files. So that was breaking today, and that's the only thing that I've seen come out with it. But that's kind of shady there. What do you guys think?
Hey, I want to tell you something. I listened to the guy when he came out. What is it, Todd Blanchard? He comes out and he's going through everything for the media, exactly what they're releasing, and how much time was involved because they had to ensure that no victims were in any of the photos. No victims could be disclosed in the videos, but the video evidence. But then one of the things that was very telling, and it's just like a passing moment in the conversation, he says all the numbers, thousands and thousands, 200 videos, what all the pictures, but he says also not included in this are the pictures of violent acts against children and murders. Are you shitting me? So they have inside the Epstein files things that they can't release because of the violent nature of acts carried out against children. That's not going to be because those children were victimized. So, but that part was just like it was just iced over, because it was at the very end. And go back and pull it up and listen to the whole deal and verify that what I'm telling you is the truth. So that's not going to be revealed. So we know all this horror that took place, and we're not going to get to see the worst of it. And I don't want to see, because I've seen more. I've had access on the dark web to some very sick crap that these evil politicians, and look, it's not just, it's wealthy billionaires and what they do. And now those dark websites, and he said that, they've gone in and they've prosecuted the number of cases that they've prosecuted and that they've taken down off the dark web, because that shows the violence. Those videos will make you ill. They'll make you sick. And Jeffrey Epstein was facilitating it.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go to Jeff next. I'm just gonna say, in response to your question, Tammy, I don't know yet. It's gonna take some time to even hear, like John says, what's coming out of that stuff. I bet a lot of it's just regurgitated what we've already seen or
Could
know.
be.
Maybe there's some new stuff in there, but I'd like to get Jeff's perspective on that.
Well, well, and I've said this since everybody has been crying, bitching, complaining about the Epstein files. If you're not a victim of it, or if you weren't a perpetrator of it, you have no damn reason to know.
No.
You really, really don't. And you know, everyone's so wrapped up, and the people who are wrapped up in the Epstein files is saying, "Oh, Trump's in it. Trump's in it." You know, if Trump was in it, they'd have used it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
long time ago, Jeff.
right?
You're right.
And
If Trump was in it, he wouldn't be president for a third time again.
No.
right. I mean, it's sad, and I don't think, and I've said this since all this come up again, they cannot release the Epstein files in full bore. Get rid of all the explicit pictures and videos. It would topple world government.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what's happening in LA right now. LA is off the charts with these protests and rioting. I mean, this just started. Imagine that on a world scale.
Hmm.
Because once you start telling people that children have been victimized, political parties are out the window.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's going to
And
be the perpetrators.
correct.
Yes.
And now people want to start lynchings.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's gonna be on the left and the right.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's no blue or red in this.
No,
It's
absolutely
those.
not.
It's basically those sick Fs
Yes.
versus the
Yep.
rest of the world.
Wouldn't it be nice though if something was being done where they set up good people to take over, if and just take the bad people out? But it seems to me like there's just millions, unfortunately, from the local level and everyday people all the way up to kings and leaders and world leaders and rich people. It's
Well,
insane the amount of people
well,
involved.
yeah. Well, look at what Trump said at Davos. He
Hmm.
said there are going, and I don't think he just meant over our election. He said there are going to be people prosecuted for this shit. Now, people can say what they want about Trump. I've made, on both sides, good and bad with Trump. I'm tired of him campaigning. To me, yes, I want to see people get justice for what they've done to the not only this country but outside this country. With yeah, I was a very very strong supporter of George W. Bush, and now that I've seen some of this stuff, I'm like, dude, you were no better than the rest of them,
Yep.
or
Right.
or was it Darth Vader? Dick Cheney, and I
Hmm.
think that's a big part of it. Um, but he something catastrophic, constitutional. I believe, and this is my own personal opinion from the people I talk to. I talked to the big chair this morning, and here's something that probably is going to shock you. That he told me when they had their department head meeting this morning that he showed the big chair a piece of paper and asked him what his thoughts were on it. And the big chair laughed and said, "Oh, please do it." And I asked him, I was like, "Well, what is it that got you so excited?" Well, I guess him and Don Jr. are suing the IRS for $80 billion.
It's insanity. It's insanity. So, this is what I would like to wrap the show up with real quick, you guys. It's been a great show and stuff, but there's this little video. It's not going to have sound. It's only 43 seconds. It is what Trump posted on Truth Social, and he calls it, he said, my new painting, MAGA Symphony. And we're just going to play it, and I want you guys to look at the people that are playing these instruments, and then I'll get your thoughts on it, because we're going to talk about real quick the song that is played. I just don't want to play the song and get taken down. That is actually played on this if you go to Truth Social, and some of the words to it. And then I'd like to get everybody's opinion of it, and then we'll wrap it up. So let me share the screen. Here it is, entire screen. I'm going to shut the audio. There it is. We're going to make it bigger. Okay, so I'm going to hit play and just watch this real quick. I recognize actually Erica Kirk. I recognized Pete Hegseth. I see JD Vance in there. There's Dan Scavino behind the harp. Glenn Beck's back there. We've got Tulsi Gabbard. I saw Newt, I think. That looks like Kash Patel. There's Elon playing the guitar, which would be Mike's position if he were in it. And that's it. And then we got Don Jr. and we've got Barron Trump. Now, what's interesting about that is he said that's his symphony. And the song that plays to it is Who Wants to Live Forever by Queen. And in the words, it says this world has only one sweet moment set aside for us. Who wants to live forever? Who dares to love forever when love must die? And it says, touch my world with your fingertips. We can have forever. We can have and love forever. Forever is our today. Now, I think that is very poetic and poignant and interesting, but I really can't understand what that is unless that's his people that he is entrusted, and they're playing all these instruments because they are going to take down the swamp. That's the only thing I can think of. But I'd like to have everybody's opinion.
I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to bow out, Tammy.
Okay.
I'm gonna make mine very short, very sweet. Best is yet to come. Love you all. Have a great night, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Love you, bro.
Santa.
Sienna. So what do you think, Jeff?
That's just like, you remember when Trump had the song from, and I don't know exactly what the song is, but they played it in Sum of All Fears when they sent in a wet team. And if you don't know what a wet team is, it's a kill squad that the military and certain agencies have, that when they leave the room, the floors are wet from everybody's blood.
Wow.
And he played that song right shortly after he came into office for the second time. And to me, and with the song Who Wants to Live Forever, is almost like calling cards to world leaders. That they are talking, he's talking to them where traffic can't be intercepted. You know, like when Trump met with these people in Davos and he had these damn folders again. You know, to me, it's all a very big military operation with a movie budget.
Well, before Johnny says what he thinks about it, also Melania Trump's grand opening of her movie is today. Last night it was at the Kennedy Center, and she called Trump the best director of America. She actually called her husband America's director. And I find that pretty interesting that she would say that, and then he posts this the next day, today.
Yeah.
Okay, John, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, he's given us, speaks the words, huh? And you got to recognize, Mr. Trump come directly off the TV into the presidency, and so he is a good director. I have no doubt. Who's ever directed this? Because you have to think about the time frame. When we're 9 years into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, long time, huh? And all that we've seen, and all that we know, and what we see with every single thing. The big takedowns are yet to come, but what's at the end of it? And if the order is restored, and restoration, at one time he gave us a speech where he openly, multiple times, said the restoration of the republic. And that's what we need to understand. That's been the mission for the entire 9-year time frame, is how do we restore this? And to do that, there's a lot of evil men that wanted this new world order, and the globalist. And if he's going there, and he openly did it at Davos, he blistered them. So I think that the best is yet to come, and Mike's spot on.
Well, I forgot about this, and why have you and Jeff both? Can we cover this real quick? I know I said that was the last thing, but it's about our government weaponry. And Trump was talking about this the other day in the Oval Office. He was talking about a secret discombobulator weapon he said was crucial to what he used to Venezuelans and the raid on Maduro. He calls it the discombobulator. And basically, that's what he's threatened Iran with. But he said that the mystery weapon made the enemy's equipment basically not work. And he said, I'm not allowed to talk about it. So he's really not wanting to say a lot about it. But in hindsight, one of the self-identified members in Venezuela said that afterwards, suddenly their radar systems shut down without any explanation. And the next thing they saw were drones, they said, flying all over. They didn't know how to react. But they said at one point they launched something. It was like a very intense sound wave. And they said suddenly they felt like their head was exploding from the inside. And they started bleeding from the nose and started like vomiting the blood. So they don't know if it was a sonic weapon or whatever. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the government does have plenty of things we don't know about. But this weaponry is similar to a lot of weapons that we talk about that have caused different things for people around. So Trump, I think it's very interesting, talked that much about it, but says he can't talk about it. And that's what he's using to threaten Iran with. So Jeff B., are you there?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that before I get to John, on what these results were for some of these people and Trump calling it the discombobulator?
Well, when they first started the operation into Venezuela, I don't know, I think it was I believe it was another show I was doing, and I was telling people that they're launching drones from fighter jets, and I had said that if I believe what it is that these drones have EMP and sonic waves that shoot out pulses, and they probably sent those into those tunnels first before they sent in Delta to go do the snatch and grab. And you have to remember, I think it was during the Obama administration, where people in Cuba were suffering the same thing, and they were calling it the Havana syndrome. And I think, our military, CIA, O&I, whoever agency was doing it, they were testing it. And I think that's because now it's been put out that we had either our government or the Israelis had an IRGC spy inside Iran's Quds force, and they basically gave us all the information where the Ayatollah was going to be at, which I can't believe somebody released that. Or is that a pump fake? Who knows? But we don't send all those assets over to that region, divert ships, start canceling port calls for a pump fake. So they're
Right.
going to do something. It's just a matter of how big that
Yeah.
we're going to do,
I just think it was important to
type of
cover that.
operation we're going to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we have that kind of stuff. It makes me feel comfortable that we do. But John, what do you think before we end this with final thoughts?
Okay, and when Mike and I and Stephen H, we did deep dives during the COVID, looking for evidence and proof of when it took place and how it was done in the bio labs. One of the things that we ran across in some DARPA documents was the use of frequency and vibration to take people out, and so I know that exists. I know that they can do it. And I think that that's exactly what was exercised in Venezuela. I have no doubt that's what will be exercised. They got it. Our military is far more advanced than we can even imagine. And, that was our link when we got to looking at the mRNA vaccine and DARPA's take on it and DARPA's involvement in the biolabs part of that. Part of that was to silence the God gene, because every human exists in frequency and vibration. You have a God spark, let's say.
Uh-huh.
And if I can silence then that God spark in you, well, then you will lose your grip to whatever ideology, and you got to recognize they developed these weapons to use in Afghanistan. That's where the work started, so that these radical extremists, terrorists, how could you go over and fly over a village and have them just take a seat and chill out? Well, ultimately, they used frequency and vibration, and it was kind of deadly at first. And I think, I don't know how they control it, what the pulse is that they send, but it definitely, we have access to that weaponry.
It's pretty scary, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And Jeff, I don't know if he's coming back or he had to dump out. He might have had to dump out. But I just wanted to cover that while I had you and Jeff on. It's something that I was interested in and stuff. And even though, like I said, it's very interesting and good, it is very scary. And you're right. How do they control it and stuff? And I certainly don't want it aimed and used towards me. But anyhow.
Exactly.
So what is your final thought for tonight, Johnny? I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I think it was a great show. It was fun. And what would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, that the fact that, and Mike brought it up several times, we can all have differences of opinions, but the great power that we have is that we listen to one another, because in listening in our conversation and what we speak, whether our views are the same, whether they're not the same, we have one single unifying, we are all Americans, and we want the best for this nation and for every American. I don't want any American to suffer anything at the hands of any type of violence. But, that's, to me, it all goes back to what I say when I close every single thing I've ever done with Mike. Ultimately, God wins this battle, and it will be when we unify with love for one another that allows us to be in conversation. Even if the conversation gets heated, we can still leave it as, hey, that guy's an American. His point of view doesn't agree with mine, but I can still embrace him and love him, because at least he cares enough to be in the conversation. Conversation is where we'll save it.
Yes. Amen to that. Well, thank you, John. Have a great rest of your night. It was great to see you and be with you tonight. And my final thought is going to be, you guys, is going to tag on to what John says. We have to really learn to be able to communicate again and have good conversation. Putting little statements out, calling people names and stuff is never going to get us anywhere. I've been saying that all along. It's elementary school level intelligence, and we're a lot smarter than that. And I think the bottom line is everybody wants the same thing. They want to feel safe in their community. opportunities. They want to be able to feed their families. They want to have good jobs. They don't want to have 3 jobs where they can't enjoy life. You aren't here to work just to live. You're live to work. You want to be able to just live. And hopefully we get to that point. And when you have good conversations and people get involved and people care enough to look at things from a broader spectrum than what they believe is right, then we win. Remember, we the people are much more stronger and powerful and numerous than a lot of these leaders. And you know what? God does win. But the thing is, you have to pray and you have to think, what does God want me to do? What is the path that he has for me? If we go out there just all self-absorbed, thinking we know everything, or not leaning on him, our mighty creator, then we're doing ourselves an injustice. And I think that's how we got in a lot of trouble that we're in, by just pushing him to the side. So that's my final thought for this tonight. I enjoyed the show. Thanks for all the great comments. All the new people, we loved having you. The people that have supported us all along, you've been great as well. Please, on your way out, don't forget to hit the share, like, and subscribe button. And with that being said, John, we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, dear. Love you. Love all
ya.
of you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.